Well, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to our Cooking for Wellness with the Central Ohio Urology Group. We are doing Mediterranean on the brain. Chef Jason Johnson's going to be making falafel patties and vinaigrette dressings. Dietitian Emily Sullivan will be talking about all the wonderful nutritional values and the ingredients that Chef is using tonight. And I am Darlene. I'm the program manager here with Cancer Support Community Central Ohio. So Chef, you shared with me that you're going to start with the falafel patties first.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Thank you guys for joining us tonight for our class. Doing Mediterranean, these days, actually, the Mediterranean diet is one of those things that is heavily encouraged because it is high in, protein, of course, fresh produce, fresh foods, low fat, all those type of things in that. So I just want to show you some Mediterranean recipes here with the falafel. And all falafel is, you may have heard the term falafel, and all it is more so almost like ground chickpeas or garbanzo beans. So if you've seen garbanzo beans, that's the same thing, chickpeas. And it's a great alternative to the restaurant I used to manage. We actually did falafel burgers. So it was a great vegetarian, vegan option for a burger for those who didn't want to eat meat. You may have seen these in restaurants as little balls, little falafel balls that you can eat in that capacity. So they're really great in a lot of different type of applications, and they're real easy to make. We have some chickpeas that I've drained. I always tell you guys, if you don't remember, save that liquid that you have off of the chickpeas, because what happens is that that's called aquafaba, the liquid from off of the chickpeas, and that's usually used in a lot. Matter of fact, when we used to make our falafel, we would save the aquafaba, and it would be kind of to help act as almost like the binder instead of egg. So we can make it totally vegan by using that as a to help to bind it. Or if you're baking, you can use that aquafaba. Got my knife. You can use that as a substitute in baking recipes. So don't throw that away. It's still a good use.
So Chef, I got a quick question about that. Usually they recommend that you drain your beans, your canned beans in that because of the sodium. Is there a lot of sodium in those beans, or maybe that's more of a question to Emily?
Definitely draining the beans for sodium content. I think there's a dual purpose for the chickpea, what that sits in. For like black beans and stuff like that, you would want to drain those, drain the sodium off of that. The sodium follows the water. So we do want to do that for those beans, but there is a dual purpose for the chickpea aquafaba.
Yeah, and I was going to say that is more prevalent with like a lot of other beans, but chickpeas, that you don't have to worry about that in that same sense, because like I said, that is not the same liquid. It's different than on, like Emily said, a can of regular beans. Chickpeas, that liquid is called aquafaba, and it has that type of effect. So not the same as if you're just draining off a can of regular beans.
Does that liquid come off the beans, or is it added to the can?
If I'm not mistaken, it comes off of the beans. It's something we can look into, actually. I don't want to tell you the wrong thing.
Chef, can you repeat the question? She's too far away from the mic.
Was asking, is there something added to the beans, or is it something that just naturally comes off of the beans?
Oh, did you say it was something natural?
I said, to be honest, I'm not sure. So I didn't want to lead anybody in the wrong way.
Gotcha. Okay. I do have a question. I, for some reason, have a different recipe. And so I'm trying to find right now on my email where I pulled up where like the right one is. Darlene, where can I find that? Why did I look at the wrong one, you think?
I'm not too sure about that, Emily, but I will definitely email you what chef's working on now.
Yeah, okay, because I did preparation for something else, but that will be no problem. We'll figure it out.
What do you have, Emily?
Okay, I got an email just a couple days ago about all these mason jar ones.
Oh, that's for,
that-
yeah, that's for a future class.
That's for oh, is it May? I think it's May.
Oh, okay. My bad. Okay, no problem. Well, at least I'll be ready for that one. Sorry,
Your
keep going,
homework's
Chef
already
Jason.
done.
No problem. So like I said, this is a pretty easy dish in the sense that we have chickpeas, we have some onion, garlic, and then we have some things that are going to add some great rounded flavor to it. So we have parsley and cilantro. And then I have some nice seasoning spices. I have some curry powder, some cumin, coriander. So really nice warm spices. So this is going to give it that nice Middle Eastern Mediterranean type of flavor profile. But like I said, pretty much easy from there. And then we have some baking powder. So that's going to help to kind of bring it all together. We're going to put it in our food processor because that's going to help process it down, but it'll help give us the texture that we also need. And once we process it, it'll all form together into almost what we call like a, oh, I can't think of the word. Forgive me on that. But it all come together where we can just scoop it and form little patties. The best thing to do is typically form your patties, refrigerate it for at least 30 minutes to an hour so it can all set up and everything can kind of come together, and then cook those off. So.
Well, just off the top of my head with chickpeas, I know we've talked about chickpeas before. I don't know if anyone on the session has been on a class where we have discussed chickpeas, but they are a really excellent source of protein and alternative plant-based protein. If anyone is vegetarian or vegan or is just doing something plant-based, that would be a good way to add protein, and the fiber content in there is going to help, with all different health things. It's going to keep things moving. It's going to keep you feel full longer. It's going to, there's just a lot of other nutrients in there as well. And you can add chickpeas to a bunch of different dishes. You can add them to salads. I know before we have kind of roasted them and made them like a crouton. And so we've added protein that way as well. So just, they're very versatile, and they can help lower your cholesterol, because what the fiber does is it actually grabs onto that cholesterol and it kind of just draws it out of your body. So that's beneficial that way as well.
Exactly. So they serve so many purposes, and I think they don't get as much in the beginning because people only knew chickpeas or garbanzos as the foundation of hummus. And so that's, all they would utilize them for. But there's so many different ways that you can use these and add that little extra, protein into your diet. Like Emily was saying, we've done these where you can roast them. They can be a nice little snack instead of, nuts or chips. You can put them in a salad. You can use them in this way, in a sense, making a patty or a burger. So there's so many ways that you can utilize these and that they will be beneficial to you. So I have, like I said, we've drained these chickpeas. I have some onion, just regular yellow onion. If you just have a red onion, go right ahead. So I have onion, then of course a little garlic, minced garlic. And even though the recipe tells you, okay, put this much in there, it's all about, make it your own. Like maybe you or people in your family or friends are garlic lovers. It's not going to hurt it to add a little extra if you want. Maybe you don't too much care for garlic and either you omit it or, you don't add as much. It's not going to ruin the recipe. It can be to your your flavor, your palate, or what you enjoy. Then we're going to add our spices. Like I said, I have some curry powder, some coriander, some cumin, and I think a little bit of cardamom. Now, cardamom is kind of expensive, so if you can't find any or don't wish to pay for cardamom, and cardamom is one of those spices that a little goes a long way. If you add too much cardamom, it could overpower whatever you're putting it in. And to me, cardamom has almost like just like coriander, has more like a floral kind of flavor, but it's really creates a really great balance from the earthiness of like cumin and some and curries and things like that. So we've added those in. A little bit of oh, I can't find my salt. I just had it. We'll add some salt, pinch or so.
Do you have any recommendations if we don't have a food processor at home? Should we just kind of chop things up ourselves, or?
So if you don't have a food processor, you could take like a potato masher and kind of do it that way, a blender, but I would pulse it. I wouldn't just put it on something continuous. If you have a blender, just then pulse it a couple times until you see it kind of come together. But that would probably be it.
Yeah.
Now we have cilantro and parsley. Now, the one thing about this interesting thing is you go to the grocery store, and even as I have it in this cup now, it all looks the same. A trick that I learned years ago was, how do I tell the difference? If I pull these out of their separate bags, or if I wasn't the one that purchased them and somebody hands both of these to me at the same time, well, how do I know which one's parsley, flat leaf Italian parsley, or which one's cilantro? Because they look exactly the same. Matter of fact, if we had the overhead on, you'd be able to be like, you see them both in this cup. How do I know the difference? One way I was always able to remember was that cilantro ends with an O. So I associated the O with rounded edges. So I would, and then parsley, E has a hard Y on the end of parsley. So I thought of sharp edges. So the best way that I was able to remember was, I know this on this side is cilantro because the leaves, they have more rounded edges, whereas these leaves have what we call sharper edges. So that was the best way for me to be able to remember which was which, rounded edges versus sharp edges. Cilantro and parsley.
You have lots of those little ways to remember things, because you've shared that before. Was that you that shared about the baking soda? Was that you or a different chef?
Yes, about baking soda and baking powder, baking soda spreads, and baking powder puffs.
Cilantro and parsley smell very different from each other.
And yeah, I was gonna say, and of course you could do the taste test on parsley and cilantro. You can easily, because most people, well, to some people, I don't know if people knew this, you actually, there's a DNA, there's a coding even in some people's DNA where they taste cilantro and it tastes like soap to them. And so most of the time they can't stand cilantro. But you can definitely taste it and tell also. So I started chopping this and I was thinking, what am I doing? I don't need to waste time chopping it. It's going in the food processor. So I have some leaves of both going in there. And let's add our baking powder.
Chef, this is probably a very silly question, but would there ever be a use of the stems for one of these plants? Usually, you de-stem them, but would you ever use the stems?
If you were making, even if you were making like a pesto out of these, if you were, and for either one of these, you can really just chop them up fine and still put them in whatever you're using. They're still edible. Sometimes they can be a nuisance, and I think that's why people try to de-stem them. But for the most part, you just take a bunch of them, and now a lot of times they'll show you, whether it's culinary or chefs, see these have some long stems and they tell you to take, or if I took the whole bunch, have that whole bunch, and they tell you to have it hold it at like a 60-degree angle and just pull this up and take your knife and just kind of get it off of the stems like that. You just gently take your knife, you run your knife down, you pull this up and things like that. Or another thing I've seen is if you take, and you can do this with thyme too. Another trick I've seen is you take these with the long stems. I don't think you guys have one here, but you know your graters, like a cheese grater, you put that, it's just big enough to stick that through there. You can do this with thyme. If you have fresh thyme, stick that through your, like one of your holes in the small holes of your cheese grater or your box grater and pull them through, and it pulls all the leaves off.
Oh, that's excellent tip. Thank you.
So those are always ways to do that. But it won't hurt even if you keep the stems. All right, so we got everybody's in the pool. Guess we'll call this whirlpool though.
We had quite a reputation.
And the thing is, I don't want to put this on, even in the food processor. I don't want to put it on some containers because we're not making hummus. Because if we put this on like in our food processor to almost puree, then it becomes hummus. That's not what we want. So we want a little texture to this. So that's why I'm pulsing it, just so that it can get mixed up and break those chickpeas down. Because like I said, I'm not making hummus. Almost want it almost like a dough consistency. So it's good consistency in there. And then when I take it out, scoop it out. I'm gonna use, you can use like an ice cream scooper, or you can use like, I have a half cup measuring cup, and then you could use that to help form, because what that does is bring consistency. I do that when I make meatballs. I have like a small ice cream scooper, like a half ounce, and that's what I make meatballs, so that I know that they're all consistent. So there's always those little tricks. If you want a consistent burger or a patty, use like a measuring cup or like an ice cream scoop so that they can all be the same size. You can kind of flatten them out as you go. All right, so we're gonna take our spatula just to, oh yeah. So we want a little bit of that texture. Like I said, if I keep going, then I'll have hummus. Because it's enough to where there's a little texture, but then it's kind of nice and mashed in a sense. So that's going to come together to where we have a nice binded patty. So over here I have my pan on about medium heat because we don't want to burn it. About a medium heat, enough to where you get a good sear, browning on the outside, and of course, cooked from there. So I got in my, we'll just kind of press it together so it sticks. And we don't have any flour or anything like this, so it's gluten-free. To be honest, it's vegan because we don't have any egg or anything in there like that. Got a nice little, and you can make these as large or as small as you want. You can use this, like I said, as a burger. So you can maybe get a bun and some lettuce, tomato, or something like that. Or you could just cook them as they are and add them instead of like tofu or chicken breast, you can add this to your salad.
So if somebody wanted to use like a George Foreman grill or a kind of cooking apparatus like that, could you do that instead of the oil in the skillet, or will they not hold together?
No, they still will. You could put these on a baking sheet and put them in the oven the same way and cook them off in the oven too. Just trying to make sure I've got it cooked. And that's why I say it's best if you do prepare these, you know, either if you prepare them a couple of hours before or the day before, because then it allows them to kind of set up and to everything to kind of marry together, and allow it to your patty to kind of set. And then you can guarantee that it won't, because then everything kind of absorbs and it won't easily fall apart. I'm gonna make 3 of them.
Yeah, that's great. You could do all the prep work the day before. You have somebody,
Yeah.
like you having dinner for somebody, and then you just have to throw them on the grill when they come. That's a great idea.
Yep.
Or the pan, the grill. I don't know what that's called.
So even using this scoop, whether you use a ice cream scoop or, you know, your measuring cup, that also helps to pack it too. So it kind of helps come together before you even form it. So when I put it in here, I use my spatula and I help put that in there and kind of push it in there so that it's able to pack in there. And then you see it easily comes out. So it's already started that packing, and I'm just using it. I'm doing it gently in between my hands to make sure that it doesn't come apart.
And you didn't have to coat, I'm sorry, Chef.
No, what?
And you didn't have to coat the measuring cup with any kind of spray to make the.
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And I'm just trying to make sure it's all uniform with my other ones because I don't want it to be too thick. And like I said, there's no egg or anything like this. I remember when we used to make black bean burgers, we made black bean quinoa burgers, but we added egg and flour to it to make sure that they were able to stay together and all that kind of stuff. We don't have that in this. So I want to make sure I'm gently doing it, but I am also forming it so that it doesn't break apart once we start cooking it. Which I hope this doesn't make a liar out of me. All right, so my pan is, I can tell because I get that ripple effect with the oil. I can see it rippling, so that lets me know that my oil is hot. So you notice I turned it on, and so hot pan and hot oil. You know it's hot because you get that nice ripple effect in the oil. And that wonderful sound. You can use a nice, if you are using them in the pan, you can use a nice like avocado oil or grapeseed oil. That will also help. Nice clean oil.
Now, as far as food safety goes, there's nothing really that is going to spoil if it's not cooked thoroughly, correct?
Right, exactly. Because like I said, we didn't use any egg or anything like that. So you really won't have to worry about that. Technically, all you're doing is cooking the chickpea and the onions.
Yeah, and it's just really to whatever preference of maybe crispness or warmth or color, what that you want out of that.
Exactly.
Does that sound okay?
We're going to let those kind of hang out, and then we'll maybe wait about 2 minutes, and we'll flip it over and get some nice color on the other side. Like I said, because what you're technically doing is you're just really kind of getting the brownness on it. You're getting a little crispness on that, and letting all those flavors kind of marry together in that regard. Anybody have any questions concerning the falafel patties? Quick, easy, simple ingredients.
Has anybody ever made falafels or eaten them, ordered them from anywhere? I've never ordered them. I don't think I've ever had one.
That's one of my favorite to-go menu items at certain restaurants, which I won't name. So I was
No
very excited
way.
to have my own recipe now. And this will definitely be one that I'll be trying at home, Chef.
Great.
That's awesome.
Uh-oh, did
Splash
you get
you?
splattered?
Got a little bit. It's okay.
There's you go.
Hazards of the kitchen.
Nice little brown.
Oh, I do see it popping up over there. I just saw
Yeah.
some.
Just a little brown. So got a nice little golden color on there. Nice little crispness. Ooh. So what I'm going to do is, I don't have any lettuce and tomato and a bun. We got a little mixed greens here. That on the bottom. You guys know me. Presentation is key.
50% of the class.
We'll just put those on a bed of mixed greens. Make a little sauce, maybe a little yogurt sauce or something like that. Take a little Greek yogurt sauce, a little lemon juice, garlic, and some oregano, and or some of that cilantro you have, and make that into like a little sauce and drizzle it over it. Voila. Or like a tzatziki. You can make a tzatziki. Mince some Greek yogurt, mince cucumber, garlic, lemon juice. Voila. All right.
I bet it smells good.
I was gonna say, Ann is here. She can vouch for it.
I was gonna say that you can see the beautiful color even this far from the camera.
That presentation, great work.
And I just put a little bit of sprinkle salt when it came back out. And I just happen to have, because everybody has random sauces around their refrigerator. I just happen to have some avocado poblano sauce that I made up from an event this weekend. So
I have sauces in my house, but nothing like that. So
you guys can.
Excellent.
beautiful.
Love that we added the greens underneath. Come on, guys.
Yeah. So it's simple, it's quick, it's a great lunch, or even a great dinner. You have those greens, if you're using that way, you have those greens underneath there. Basically like, create almost like a salad. Speaking of salads, great transition. Any questions about the falafel, about that recipe, about the use of the chickpeas or anything like that? No?
We're a quiet group.
Quiet.
It's also, I think it's a pretty easy recipe. Not real complicated.
What kind of sides would you have with it? Like what are they, like rice, or like what would they?
Yeah, you could do some rice, like maybe some basmati rice, or you can make like a little couscous salad.
That's
And matter of
delicious.
fact, what you could do is you could toss your mixed greens with a little bit of couscous, a little olive oil and lemon juice, and toss all that together, and then you could have that on that bed, and that's a complete meal right there.
Yum. If you have leftover chickpeas, you could make some hummus with some pita bread.
Yes. Or you can eat your falafels in a pita.
Oh man, the ideas are just, the wheels are turning.
The options are endless, everyone. And that's the good thing about food, is that the options are endless. You can make it what you want to enjoy and how you want to enjoy. So eating healthier doesn't have to be boring. It doesn't have to be like, but you can still make it good, fun, and delicious by just adding what makes you happy, without compromising your wellness per se. We just thought of 5 different ways that you can enjoy this. And so you can make them, make up your patties or make them as balls if you want to, freeze them, and then just use them for different purposes, whenever you want. Maybe you
like
can
that
have it
idea.
a different way. Maybe you have it as a burger for dinner tonight, but then 2 days from now, you have it on your salad with some couscous or some rice, and some mixed greens or so. Or maybe you have it in a pita for lunch coming up. So with some tomatoes, wow, that sounds good. Some tomatoes and some cucumber slices and a little bit of the Greek yogurt, and do that in a pita. Voila. You've had
When talking
three.
about
Mhm.
when talking about what makes a meal healthy, or what you should aim for, like what would be the perfect way to consume your meals, is not what you take away, it's what you can add to your diet. So it's how we can incorporate the 5 major food groups into our diet. So specifically for this meal, with what he presented right there in front of us, we can hit almost all of the 5 major food groups, because we have the chickpeas, which is going to be a good source of protein. He drizzled on that the avocado dressing, and that's going to be a healthy fat, with the greens on it. And then we could have a side of a grain, we could have rice, or and just make our meal and then figure out how we can get the rest of the 5 major food groups incorporated. So make what you want to make, and then look at your meal and see, like, okay, well, I need a dairy or I need a grain. How can we incorporate that so that we can get the well-rounded meals every time?
I'm glad you said that, Emily, about it's not, because I think that's where people have the most struggle is, that healthy means what I took away.
Right.
Well, I got to take away this, and I can't have this, and I can't have that. Instead of looking at it the other way of what do I just need to add? How do I need to balance? And I think by taking on that perspective, then I think people will be more successful in their journey of wellness. And I always make sure I say that, because I want people to understand too, it is a journey, and a journey is many steps, and it always starts with at least one step. So maybe it is just introducing whole grains into your diet, than what you're used to. Maybe it's not white rice anymore, and you've at least integrated brown rice or quinoa. That's a step,
Definitely.
and you've added more fresh vegetables into your diet and not canned. So that right there helps you to be able to, because it's not about this box of healthy, you got to fit in this box of healthy, but what makes things healthier, or healthier choices for you and for your life. Because for some people, just making at least one change can change the trajectory of their health or their wellness journey. While I've been talking, I have a nice Cara orange. I like Cara oranges because they're sweet, but they have this really nice, almost berry-like flavor to them. So it kind of gives it different than just a regular like navel orange.
Beautiful color.
And I love the color of Cara oranges. So I'm doing that because our next recipe is a vinaigrette. And we've probably done vinaigrettes a lot of times. But I wanted to show you guys again because, we're going into spring and summer and things like that. And so it's always good to make sure you know how to be able to do those and create your own dressings. That right there, we just talked about making certain decisions to make kind of better decisions. So
Yes,
what I'm
having
doing-
that having that on hand, then you can know that you have an option to add your dietary fat, and it's probably going to be healthier than what you would buy in the stores. It is going to be healthier to do like a vinaigrette or an oil-based dressing than maybe a creamy dressing. It's going to have a lot less of those not so great fats. It's going to have the better fats in it. It's going to have better calorie content, things like that. So choosing a dressing for a salad or in your dishes at all, oil based is going to be the better option for that. And to make your own, it's going to be probably healthier than what you can buy on the shelf. So I love it. And you can just have that on hand, put the effort in that one evening that you're making it and make some extra, you can have that on hand.
And that is exactly right. That's the best way to do it, because you don't have to be intimidated by it. It really is simple to do. What I'm doing, it's a technique called supreming these oranges. So I've cut the skin off the top and the bottom. And then you know how you have these, what do they call these? In between the orange segments?
Membranes.
Membranes, that's it. And I'm just literally cutting out the slices in between the membranes with my little paring knife here. And then you have what we call little supreme or nice clean orange segments. Just like that. And so this is going to go in a salad. Nice fresh salad. It's amazing. Recently, I've come across so many people who do not like fruit in their salad. Now, I could actually use this orange in two ways. I could put the segments in there, but I could also use, even if I would have taken like half of it and done the slices, and then the other half squeeze the juice to make now a cara orange vinaigrette. But I've already cut all the supremes out, so I don't have much juice left. So I got some nice orange supremes, and we're going to make a nice white balsamic vinaigrette. And I'm going to actually do it the old-fashioned way. So the easiest way that you can do this these days is get yourself a mason jar, put all the ingredients for a vinaigrette in there, and shake until your heart's content. And voila, you have a vinaigrette. That's probably the easiest way there is anymore. I wish I had known that technique when I was in culinary school. It wasn't as popular. So we had to learn the old-fashioned way of putting everything in, drizzling in the oil until we got an emulsification, and you whisk and whisk and whisk. That's a way. Of course, you can also do this in a food processor. Put your ingredients in there, drizzle in the oil until emulsification. We talk about emulsification is basically where the oil and the acid, meaning either a citrus juice or vinegar, basically come together and don't separate. That's emulsification. The fat and acid basically marrying together, those molecules marrying together. I forgot to bring a mason jar. So we're going to go back to we're going to do it original way that I learned in culinary school. And so a vinaigrette always starts with some type of acid, as I mentioned. That could be, of course, vinegar, hence vinaigrette. So it could be a balsamic vinegar, red wine vinegar, white wine vinegar, regular white distilled vinegar, apple cider vinegar. Any of those can work. And I always say, if you learn the technique of a recipe, you can be able to turn that recipe into 100 different ways. So if I gave you a recipe for a vinaigrette and say, here's the basic recipe for vinaigrette, which is usually a 1 to 3 ratio. So 1 part acid, vinegar, to 3 parts oil. It's more like 2.5, but 3 parts oil. And then whatever type of what we call flavorings in that. You should be able to make 100 different vinaigrettes from there. Today, I'm making a white balsamic vinaigrette, but I could easily make a red wine, a Greek vinaigrette, which is usually red wine vinegar, a little Dijon, oregano, garlic, and oil. can easily make a lemon basil vinaigrette. So I usually have a little bit of either white wine vinegar, lemon juice, basil, maybe sometimes a little bit of Dijon and oil. You can make 100 of them as long as you learn the base of it. So you always start out with your acid. In this case, we have white balsamic. I like white balsamic because it is not as strong. It's more subtle than your regular balsamic. It's kind of more mellow or mild. Sometimes regular balsamic is just like, which is nothing wrong with that, because depending on the purpose of what you're using it for, it works perfectly. You know, you can do balsamic with strawberries or heartier things like that, really bring out things with fruit. Balsamics are really good with like salads or so with fruit. So they have their place. But I like a nice white balsamic, like I said, because it's a little bit mellower. I make a pomegranate white balsamic vinegar. Matter of fact, I do a winter kale salad with apples and squash and cranberries and walnuts and all that kind of stuff. And so I usually use a white balsamic with that, with a little bit of pomegranate juice to make a vinaigrette that way. So we have our acid. If I wanted to, I could add some if I, like I said, if I was thinking, I could have used half of that orange and I could squoze some of that in there. So now we have an orange white balsamic vinaigrette. So vinaigrette can be vinegar or it could be a citrus juice, lemon, lime, grapefruit juice, orange, any one of those citruses you can use as your acid. So that becomes the base. Or you could do half and half. So if we're doing a 1-to-3 ratio, just for the sake of keeping clean math, because, you know, I used to be really great at math, but the older I've gotten, it takes me a little bit longer. So for the sake of doing easy, simple math, if I do a cup of acid or vinegar or citrus juice to 3 cups of oil. And if I was using citrus juice and vinegar, then I would do half a cup of whatever citrus and then half a cup of vinegar, so that it equals out to, you know, 1 cup or whatever you're doing. If you're doing half a cup, then I would do a 1/4 cup of citrus and a 1/4 cup of vinegar to equal a half a cup. And then I would add, see here, there's my math, 1.5 cups of oil. So I know, too much math on a Thursday evening. So then this is where we add in what we call our flavorings. So have a little bit of garlic. Add some minced garlic in there. And then we'll add Dijon. So Dijon acts as 2 things. Dijon, of course, is going to add some flavor, but Dijon also helps to add as a stabilizer, or it helps in the emulsification process too.
If you didn't have Dijon, could you substitute just yellow mustard?
Yeah, and maybe my biasness towards yellow mustard.
Or a different type of mustard, like the.
I would leave it out before I would say use any other. I would say leave it. It's not going to hurt if you don't have it in.
Oh, so no spicy brown mustard?
No, that would change the whole flavor profile of it. Anne was asking if you didn't have Dijon. And the only reason we usually use Dijon is because Dijon mustard actually has like a white wine or a champagne base, you know, and those other ones don't. And they're stronger. Dijon is not as strong of, because we don't want to totally taste Dijon. We want the other things to be the flavoring of this. So Dijon is not as strong as yellow mustard or spicy brown mustard. So if you don't have any Dijon, you can leave it out. It's not going to hurt. So we have garlic, Dijon. We always add a little bit of salt, because salt is always meant to enhance flavor. So we always add a little bit of salt in there to bring all these flavors up. And then we have some honey. Now, most vinaigrettes, and even the way I learned in school, was you use sugar, because you have to have some sweetener in order to balance the kind of strong punginess from the vinegar. So
Yeah,
you,
does it cut the acid? Is that what it does? It kind of
yes,
just
it's going to cut that and balance it out, because you don't want to you don't want to just take this in. You're getting all that acidity and the strongness from the vinegar. So the honey actually functions as two things. It helps to balance it out and bring a little sweetness to it, but then it also helps also in the emulsification process. So it has dual purposes. Like I said, and then I don't like to use sugar, because then you don't want to taste those granules of sugar, because they don't dissolve, because you're not heating anything in this, so they don't always dissolve.
And doesn't honey have some health benefits? Or is that a myth?
So the benefits that you could be thinking of would be like, you tell me if I'm wrong. Do you think anything about like when you have a cold and you would do like some honey in your tea? Does that help?
Yes.
Like nothing in like a textbook, but as far as like ancestors saying that, like, I mean, it's really, there are benefits to that. And then with allergies and stuff like that, they're said that it's helpful with that as well.
And honey, I didn't have as much.
And honey lasts forever on the shelf.
Oh, speaking of lasting, Emily, you're talking about making up some and then storing the vinaigrette in the refrigerator. What would be a normal shelf life? And maybe this is actually a question for Chef. The normal refrigerated shelf life for homemade dressing like this, or vinaigrette?
At least about 7 to 10 days.
Okay.
Now, of course, I'm eyeballing, because, you know, where you've done this, you can kind of, and then as I'm whisking, you can kind of see it emulsify. So I can know that, okay, I have enough, or I need to add some more.
Now, if that sits in the refrigerator, is that going to separate again, and you just got to give it some shaking, or is
But
it?
if you whisk good enough, or if you are doing it in a mason jar and you've shaken enough, it should not separate.
Oh, gotcha.
Now, over time, like as it sits, you know, you refrigerate it, it may do a little separation. And of course, all you do is just make sure you shake it up even more. But the key is you work these molecules to where when the friction from the whisking, or if you're doing it in a food processor or so, is that it breaks those down to where they come together and they shouldn't separate. I'm using, of course, extra virgin olive oil. Yeah, I would say extra virgin olive oil is usually best for vinegar or vinaigrettes. There's also one that's considered what we call a light, extra virgin olive oil, like a lighter. And that's because it's not as strong as far as flavor, because some olive oils, people don't realize, you know, olive oil, of course, is made from grapes. So you want to make sure that, I say grapes, gosh, from olives. So there's a fruitiness depending on the type of olive, where they were harvested, all that kind of stuff. They have almost a naturally fruitiness to them. And depending on what type of vinaigrette or what your purpose you're using it for, you may not want all that extraness in it. So there's a light version, and light, they're not meaning like calories, they're meaning in the taste. It's a mellower extra virgin olive oil taste. If you don't have virgin olive oil, like grapeseed oil, it's always good, because grapeseed oil is very kind of one note. It doesn't have any flavor to it. It's kind of what I call an all-purpose better oil. You can fry and saute with grapeseed oil. You can use it in vinaigrettes or so. You can pretty much use it for anything. All right, so it's a nice golden color. I don't know if you guys can see.
Oh, yeah.
So we got a nice vinaigrette. That simple. That simple. And those easy ingredients that you most likely already have at home. Then what we'll do is, I have some nice mixed greens. At John Eagle, there's this blend that's called Power Greens. And so it's some baby Swiss chard, spinach, and I don't remember what the other one is. So a really nice blend of baby kale, I think, that's in here. So a really nice healthy blend. And we'll take some of our vinaigrette, just drizzle it, we'll lightly drizzle it.
So what you said about having those ingredients, that's something that I look for when I do recipes, is I don't choose a recipe where I have to go out and buy like every single ingredient. I try to use up the ingredients that I do have. So that is true that those are very like common ingredients that you could just already have at home.
Yeah. And like Darlene was alluding to in the beginning, is you learn how to make your own vinaigrettes. You don't have to worry about going to buy a bottle of vinegar, because these days, you know, how much is a bottle of dressing at the store? Probably about $3-4, you know, and this is stuff that you probably already have at home.
Yeah.
Staple ingredients in your pantry already that you can make up a quick light vinaigrette, and don't have to worry about any extra money.
And they may have ingredients, you know.
Right. Got our nice fancy bowl here. I like stuff like this. We'll put that, and I dress the now, unless you know your guest, depending on your guest, and you know people like different amounts of dressing and all that kind of stuff. Maybe you want to serve it on the side. I try, you know, if there's no big issues, then I like to dress the greens first, lightly, and then maybe you can serve some on the side if you want. But then you know that it's all evenly distributed instead of like doing it after you've built the salad. Plus, you want to show off all the other ingredients. Excuse me. So you don't want it to be lathered in dressing all over the top of all the other ingredients. You want to show those off too. So put it on the greens themselves, and then you can add your other toppings or to add to this. So I just made this salad up for this demonstration today of some stuff I just happen to have in my house. Got some goat cheese crumbles. Got some walnuts. So creating texture, colors. Got some strawberries. Nice light salad. And in your Bob Ross world, you just kind of build this however you deem fit. And then you take some of those nice Supreme oranges.
It's a happy little salad.
And it's a happy little salad in your world. And then voila, you have a nice fresh salad. I would probably, for color's sake, I'd have some red onion. I do some thin slices of red onion to add.
Oh, that's beautiful. Oh, great minds think alike, Emily.
Yeah, I would add some thin sliced red onion to top so that the kind of purple hue would really bounce off of the red and the orange and the green and have a really nice, and it would just really balance out really well. And then you have this nice light vinaigrette. So you can make a vinaigrette for any reason, for any way, and it's easy to do. Any questions? No one? Bueller? You?
So for the walnuts that you added, Chef, were those toasted or just fresh walnuts?
Those were toasted. And to
Was
be honest,
that-
they may be candied. They might have been candied.
They'll add a little sweetness and a crunch.
Mhm.
Well, we
Good
want
balance.
to, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
I'll say we want to thank you, Chef, for sharing your expertise and your talents and teaching us some good kitchen tips and techniques. And Emily, thank you so very much for sharing your expertise and your knowledge with us. We will be back next week for the regular Cooking for Wellness program. And on the 10th at 6 o'clock, and it's Friday night pizza party. So we'll be focusing on some healthier versions. It looks like whole wheat and cauliflower crust options for our next Cooking for Wellness class. So again, thank you, Emily, and thank you, Chef. We appreciate this great program, and thank you to Central Ohio Urology Group for partnering with us and allowing us to be able to provide this particular Cooking for Wellness program.
Thank you.